Hey makeup friends! We are here today with the new Peridot palette from BH Cosmetics, part of their Birthstone series. I'm going to show you how I created the look that I'm wearing today. We're going to do some swatches. I'm also going to do a comparison to some shades in Avocado Toast, also from BH. We got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get into this. As always, I want to start off by welcoming you back to my channel, or if you are new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and on my channel, we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb. The eye look we are going to get into, but on my lips, I have a liquid lipstick from Il Maquillage, and this is in the shade Matte Glory. All right, let's dive straight into this. So this is part of their ongoing Birthstone palette series, and this is for the month of August. Now, I did do some Googling to figure out exactly how to pronounce Peridot. Apparently you can say it Peridot or Peri-doh, both are completely acceptable. However, the gem was first mined in Peridot, Arizona, so there's your random trivia for the day. I'm gonna stick with Peridot, even though Peri-doh sounds better to me, but that could just be my Canadian roots shining through with that whole French influence. Anyways, let's take a look at what's inside. And there she is. So, as per usual with these birthstone palettes, the large pan here is meant to represent the actual birthstone. Then you have a mixed bag of mattes, shimmers, and one pressed glitter. I suspect strongly that this pressed glitter is going to be included in every single one of these palettes because it has been up to this point and we're at what, month 8? So I can't gripe about it. Here it is. Now, honestly, this is my favorite color story in all of these Birthstone palettes so far. I just think it's really fun. It's really pretty. It's different. I think it straddles the line between summer and fall perfectly, which works because we're here in August. I'm just really stoked about this one. I really liked this, so I was happy to get it. Little miffed at expedited shipping though. Had nothing to do with BH, everything to do with FedEx. It was supposed to be delivered 2 days ago. It didn't arrive until today because it's been sitting on a truck in my city for 2 days. Yeah, I'm a little annoyed. Anyways, here we are. We've got it. I love it. So, like all of the other BH palettes, this is cruelty-free and vegan, and it also retails for $9. And I think that's a great deal for what you're getting. There are 7 shades in there. One of them is a gigantic pan. So in terms of value, it's there. And what I can say is that the quality has not been compromised in making a mini palette. So these shadows perform every bit as well as they do in, say, Avocado Toast. So let's talk really briefly about this one. It retails for, I believe, $17 on the website. And again, a similar kind of color story, although it's almost impossible to tell with this freaking holographic background. At any rate, you've got a whole smattering of different greens in here and really like deep grungy earth tones. This is a beautiful palette as well. Now I have done some comparisons between shades that are contained in here and shades in the Peridot palette. So let's just go through those quickly and then we'll move on to focusing our attention over here. So up first, this is the shade Paprika from the Avocado Toast palette. This is Generous from Peridot and Independent, also from Peridot. Next up, this is the shade Brave from the Peridot palette. This is Holy Moly from Avocado Toast. And then Guac, also from Avocado Toast. Nope, I lied. That's superfood, not guac. Superfood. Guac is nowhere close to it. That's guac right there. Not even in the same ballpark. The last comparison is Enthusiastic from Peridot. This is Extra from Avocado Toast. And Green Juice. So as you can see, there are some similar shades between the two palettes, but there are no exact dupes, which I'm really happy to see. So far, I haven't found any exact dupes between any of these Birthstone palettes and the regular full-sized ones, although the pressed glitter between June and March were damn near identical, so there was that. But in terms of If you have avocado toast, this one is not a dupe for it. This would be a really nice complement to this. I don't think you need both, but I leave that decision to you. Just suffice it to say that there's no exact overlap between the two palettes. So let's take a look at this one and let's look at the swatches. First up is the shade Peridot, followed by Outgoing, Independent, and Brave. Then we have Generous, Enthusiastic, and Spirited. All right, so now that we've taken a look at the swatches, let's talk about the actual application and how I created this eye look. All right, so first I primed my eyes using the Gerard Cosmetics Clean Canvas Base in medium, and I did set that down with just a little bit of powder. Then I applied the shade Brave using a Volair DL03 brush. I find that this brush is really perfect for outer corner work because it is so precise but still blends things out nicely. Then I picked up the shade Generous on a Bristles Beauty E03 DM brush and used that to blend out the edges of Brave, leaving the very outer edge alone, but just softening up along the top portion of it. The next shade I applied was the matte yellow called Outgoing, and I applied that using a MAC, I believe it's a 219 brush, but the lettering is a little bit rubbed off on my brush, but I think that's what it is. Then I went in with the shade Enthusiastic and applied that using a Volair E05 brush, and I did boost the shadow with a little bit of setting spray just to help it adhere and be as impactful on the eyes as possible. Next I took a slightly smaller flat shader brush, also from Volair. This is the E06 brush, and I used that to apply the shade Peridot to the inner portion of my lid. And then with the power of editing, my entire face of makeup is done and I am now ready to line my lower lash line. So again, I started with that dark matte green shade Brave and used the same Volair DL03 brush to apply that. Then I went in with the shade Independent and used a brush from, I bought it from Beautylish. It was part of their like 420 set. I don't know what it's actually called, but at any rate, that was the brush that I used. And then I also applied a little bit more of that shade Outgoing using that same MAC 219 brush. Then to sort of blend and soften up all of those shadows along the lower lash line, I picked up some of the shade Generous, and I used a Sigma E42 brush to just buff out the edges of all of those shadows. And now was the moment where my heart basically stopped. So I used the NYX glitter glue and I applied that using an eensy weensy tiny little brush, and I just wanted super precise placement for the glitter glue because I knew I was going to go on top of it with the pressed glitter, which I did using a Quo Beauty brush, and this is the winged liner brush. So I just placed that glitter along the lines where the glue was, and then I also applied some to the inner corner and again used that Volair IV01 brush for placement. For lining my upper lash line, I used the Tom Ford Eye Defining Pen, and for my waterline, I used a liner from ColourPop in the shade Marigold. And then for mascara, I used the Bite Beauty Upswing Mascara. And that is it. That is how I achieved this look. I really had no frustration using any of these shades. I do find that their mattes are very, very pigmented, blend out really nicely, play nicely with each other as well. Nothing got really muddy, nothing refused to blend from one shade into the next. Even the shimmers blend nicely into each other, which I also really like because then I can create a bit of a gradient across the lid. These pressed glitters, as much as I kind of complain about pressed glitters, they're really not the worst thing in the world in my opinion, but BH does it better than a lot of other pressed glitters. In the past, I've used others that have been really dry in the pan, and when you apply them, you just get like a couple little random specks, but Everything else either falls off onto your face or just sticks to the brush or just won't come out of the pan entirely. These ones, that is not the case. I mean, I can just run my finger in there and I've got all of the glitter that I could need right there. It has a really nice base to it. It's sort of, I don't want to say that it's a sticky base, but it's like some gelatinous goop that just holds everything together nicely. And then you do get a nice even application. It also adheres, so you don't need a glitter glue, although I would recommend one. I also always recommend that people use their own judgment when it comes to using pressed glitters on their eyes. I personally have never had an issue with it, but that's not to say that nobody has ever had an issue. So I just leave that to your own judgment. If you don't feel comfortable using pressed glitter, by all means, don't use it. But there's no warnings on the packaging that say it's not eye safe. Take that for what it's worth. But at any rate, those are my two thoughts on pressed glitter. I'm going to continue repeating them. It's probably just the lawyer in me doing my due diligence, but just because I've used it doesn't mean you have to use it if you don't feel comfortable. All right, we've beat that horse well into the ground. So from a quality perspective, I have no complaints about this palette either. The only thing I would bring to your attention is that the dark green shade Brave did stain my fingers when I was doing finger swatches, and it stained it more so than the dark green shade in the Avocado Toast palette did. So there it is on my baby finger here. We'll see what my eyes look like when it comes time to washing them off. I do have an eyeshadow base underneath, so the staining might not be too bad, but I just wanted to put it out there in case staining is something that bothers you. Personally, I don't really care because when I go in the next day, if there is some leftover staining, I just use that clean canvas base and it kind of masks it all anyways, so I don't really mind, but I just wanted to put that onto your radar. So at any rate, there's really not much more for me to say. I think these palettes are a fantastic deal, $9 for this palette, and you get a nice selection of shades in here. I know the pressed glitter isn't going to be for everybody, but I think they're going to continue keeping them in here. That's just the way it's going to go with this series. Now, I know some people have also complained about the inclusion of the matte browns. I do wish that there's a little bit more differentiation between these two. I don't think that they necessarily needed to include both of those shades in here. I think having a lighter matte green would have been a nice option as well. Maybe remove Independent, keep Generous, and put like a matte lime green or something of that sort in there. I would have liked that, but regardless, it is workable as it is. I do like the inclusion of this yellow and that it's more on like that mustard side of things. I just think that it plays really nicely with the deeper, grungier greens that are going on in here, and also plays up the yellow that's in that shade Peridot to begin with. So overall, I'm not upset about it, I'm not mad at it, but I do think that there's a bit of a missed opportunity here because those shades are quite similar to each other. I think they could have like forgone one, included something a little bit different, and it would have just added a bit of versatility to this palette. That being said, I have no buyer's remorse, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments if this is a palette that you are going to be picking up as well. But with all that said, I'm going to wrap the video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next one. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.